and let us all do we can to build a better future.
So it's happening. It's happening again. We talked about BuzzFeed going under. Now Vice, the oh so posh and shiny digital media outlet, is now preparing to file for bankruptcy. So it's like that game of Monopoly. I declare bankruptcy. Well, that's actually more from Michael Scott from The Office. But no, here, check it out. And it's from an authoritative source, too, folks, of all places, the New York Times. Vice is said to be heading for bankruptcy. And it's very interesting that this is happening. So it is an article from the New York Times. Vice, the brash digital media distributor, debatable, that charmed giants like Disney and Fox into investing before a stunning crash landing, is preparing to file for bankruptcy, according to two people with knowledge of its operations. Filing could come in the coming weeks, according to three people familiar with the matter who weren't authorized to discuss the potential bankruptcy on the record. You know what that means? It's just like they're trying to brace everyone for the big crash. The company has been looking for a buyer and still might find one. Good luck to avoid declaring bankruptcy. I'm gonna stop here for a second. I'm gonna be very real with you guys. All right, very very real. I remember in 2016, after sometime Cenk Uygur got that big old load of Katzenberg cash right up the wazoo. I mean, in his hand. And he was interviewed by, I think, I forget which media distributor, but he went on to make this very ignorant and dumb statement. News is hot. As though it's important, as though it's something shiny that people will clamor to. Here's the real truth about news. Yes, it can be hot, but its shelf life is like a banana. It's going to rot and wither away and become a pile of goo very soon, because news eventually becomes old news. Now, there are evergreen topics to talk about, like the failure of progressive movements or failure of a right-wing movement, anything like that. Like you could do an autopsy on it. There's evergreen topics to talk about because there's always various ways to look at things. But news does get old. And the thing is, Vice, at one point, I mean, if we all remember in antiquity, Vice was the media outlet that would send coffee baristas to war zones. Thanks for getting my coffee, by the way. So the thing is, Vice, in its ability to continue to expand its operations, decided to make itself more shiny than it was. And the thing is, eventually it collapses under its own weight. Same thing with BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed, they had some interesting articles here and there. And when they were in their beginnings, they were somewhat interesting to people. But as time progresses, and especially during the Trump presidency, a lot of these digital media outlets suffered the symptom of Trump derangement syndrome. And by getting Trump derangement syndrome, they started to alienate their audiences. They also decided to focus on different subject areas that were no longer capturing general audiences' minds and hearts anymore. And so that's what happened to Vice. So continuing on with this article, and I just want to just bring this back up here again because this is an end of an era of these large media outlets being relevant in our current media landscape. In the event of a bankruptcy, Vice's largest debt holder, Fortress Investment Group, could end up controlling the company, said one of the people. Vice would continue operating normally and run an auction sale the company over a 45-day period, with Fortress in pole position as the most likely acquirer. Unlike Vice's other investors, which included Disney and Fox, oh, Disney. You were once an outlet of creativity, and now you're just a disappointment. But that's a story for another day. Fortress holds senior debt, which means it gets paid out first in the event of a sale. Disney, which has already written down its investments, is not getting a return to purchase. Take that, Walt. Vice Media Group has been engaged in comprehensive evaluation of strategic alternatives and planning. Vice said in a statement Monday, the company, its board, its stakeholders continue to be focused on finding the best path forward for the company. It's over. Stick a fork in them. They're done. Vice began as a punk magazine in Montreal more than 2 decades ago, sending coffee baristas to war zones. Over the years, it blossomed into a global media company with a movie studio, an ad agency, a glossy show on HBO. Oh my goodness. And here's where Disney starts coming in. Disney, after investing hundreds of millions in Vice, explored buying the company in 2015 for more than $3 billion. This right here is madness. Madness. BuzzFeed is not worth billions. Vice isn't worth billions. Vox, all of these things. And hell, I'm going to make a controversial statement here. Just going to remove the article. Even TYT wasn't worth the $20 million, Katzenberg. And that's the truth. Oh, throwing shade here. Because it's the truth. The thing is, all these media outlets became something that they're not. They were built up and up and up into institutions that became a shadow of what they once originally were. Oh, my goodness. So pathetic. So pathetic. Now, again, continuing on, the deal never materialized, and Vice eventually succumbed to a bearish market for digital media companies. They all went through it. The company has been trying for years to turn a profit, but has consistently failed to do so, losing money and repeatedly laying off employees, which is sad. Look, because I feel sorry for a lot of the people working for these companies, all right? Yes, some of the writers were making some very cringe articles, learn to code. But I want to be very clear on this. This was at one point people's livelihoods. And so out was the old, in was the new. Last week, Vice told employees that it was closing Vice World News, a global reporting initiative that covered world conflict and human rights abuses. The closure of the World News operation was a blow to employees who saw the division's aggressive coverage as in keeping with Vice roots in Gonzo Journal. Debatable. Established when co-founder Shane Smith would report from risky destinations like North Korea. Oh, my goodness. It's an end of an era. Truly, it is. But see, I just want to pull up something here real quick. All right. Oh, you bastards. Don't you do that. That's what I thought. Okay, hold on. They almost did something. Hang on. There was a paywall put up. Almost. Vice, how dare you? When you have outlets like this, ABC News and CNN manage to demonstrate exactly what not to do with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And you would think that would be like, oh, you got to respect them. If there's one thing to do about a prominent anti-vaccine activist and current presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy, it's that he makes false claims about vaccines. Although he went out of his way to avoid mentioning his anti-vaccine activism during his candidacy announcement, it was supremely obvious that he would be seeding his campaign with usual talking points as soon as possible. Media outlets would then need to be prepared to respond to his lies, misinformation, and half-truths about the topic in real time in order to completely interview him or report on his run. So in other words, look, long story short, this article is talking about how to counter when Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign is saying that he's being censored. It's not about, oh, you got to let people speak and share their minds. No, it's more of how to control the speech. All right. This is an article from Vice. When you get stuff like this is one of their most recent stuff. It's no wonder they're going under. Okay. Trust me on it, folks. Vice has had this coming for a very, very, very long time. I'm not saying they deserve it, but they deserve it. And so now that this outlet is struggling, if they can't find a buyer, we're looking at the end of another media outlet such as BuzzFeed, as it happened to them, but others will too. Now, what does this say in the long term for media in the future? This is an opening for real independent media to finally lay down its own roots so that people can be informed. And what I want to see coming after this, especially from this entire segment, is that I want there to be a rise in more independent journalists and commentators nationwide. For too long, outlets like Buzz, Vice, hell, CNN, MSNBC, all these media outlets have been dictating to all of us what we can think, what we should think about, what we should avoid. And it's through their narratives that has kept us heavily divided. We need independent media. We need media that will not be controlled by vulture capitalists. We need a media that's not going to be controlled by corporations that purposely censor the American people. Vice had this coming, unfortunately. It's the end of their era, but it's the beginning of something new. And let's face it, all of us as consumers can choose what we can and what we want to watch and what we don't want to watch, what we want to read and what we don't want to read. Vice did this to itself. They made themselves into something that they're not, and now they're suffering the consequences for it.